Hello, hello, hello. Anybody out there? It is midnight. We're going to get underway very, very shortly. Hope that woke everybody up. I'm just getting set up, folks. Bear with me. Alrighty, folks. Hello. How are we doing? Hope everybody is well. I'm doing better. Slowly. Getting there. And we got 6 people in already, and a good few people have checked in. So we have Skip, we have Woodbeast, Rainer, and my good friend Mike over at MJN Studios. And that is it so far. Good to have you here, guys. And we did have 6. We now have 4. So a couple of people have decided to leave. That's a shame. We're going to get underway very, very shortly. I am actually ready, more or less ready. So let's see. Skip says may get a bit breezy around Tuesday. Hey, well, yeah, for the west coast of Scotland, should make land on in Ireland probably overnight, and probably won't actually hit the east coast, which is where Edinburgh is, at all. So at worst, we will get a little bit of breeze, maybe, and maybe some rain. And that's probably about as good as it's going to get. Excuse me. So, yes, I have come off my meds. For those of you that have been following my medical saga over the last month or so. So the symptoms, the flu-like symptoms, which are side effects that kind of go with it, are gradually dissipating. So I'm feeling actually pretty good today. I've been working in another studio this morning, and then over at church this evening playing bass, and then back over here. And yeah, it's been a nice day actually. The sun has shone. It's been gorgeous, and the studio I've been working in has beautiful big sort of stained glass windows. It used to be a church, and it used to be a Church of Scotland church, and so these got these beautiful windows, and the sun's just been shining through those, and it's just been fantastic. And that's where I've been playing all morning, which has been really nice. So I like getting out of my studio and going visiting another studio when I can, and going to work with some other people. That's always good. It keeps me sane, or should I say more sane than normal, seeing as I kind of like teeter on the edge of sanity most of the time. But that's kind of what being a home studio guy, I guess, is all about, because I work in here on my own 95% of the time. So yes, it's a big issue, especially when the kids are not on holiday and they are at school. That's always a big thing. If you have kids and they go off to school, or you take them to school, like I do. I take my 2 to school in the mornings. And then that's them away until 3:30 in the afternoon. So I have all of that time to work in here. So, and it's quite a small little room. So Yeah, sanity is a bit of an issue. But there we go. Let's see what we got going on. Would be suggesting a Halloween show. I don't know about that. But first things first, could you guys tell me how good the audio is and how good the picture looks? I always want to know how good my broadcast is. Normally, I would actually follow it on my other devices, but I'm not doing that, which is a little bit silly. So I should probably do that so that I know, so that I can follow what you guys are following. If I were to turn that down, let's see. There we go. If I put myself in watching it, and I can maybe park my phone next to Kevin. There we go. Oh, don't fall. Don't fall. Don't you dare fall, Mr. Phone. All right, stay. Okay. There we go. Let's see. Decent here says wood-based audio is fine. Pick is acceptable. I think that is. Okay, well, that's good to know. I know it does kind of freeze a little bit every now and then, and sometimes you get some pixelation. Unfortunately, that is all part of the tiny ickle bandwidth that I have. So, Raina says I look a little dusty. Really? Dusty, that's interesting. I've never heard that comment before. I'm not quite sure what you mean. Dandruffy? I don't know. Video stutters a little. Yes, unfortunately, that is to do with my really crappy internet, and there's not a lot I can do about that, folks. That is just the way it is, which is why my live streams are nowhere near as good as Johnny Gives. So, and Johnny is here. Speaking of whom, good to see you, buddy. Thanks for joining. It's always good. Always good to have you here, and because I'm normally hanging out on your streams, Johnny, so it's good to have you on mine as well. And normally I have some idea of what I'm going to talk about, and I'm not entirely 100% sure what I'm going to talk about. I've got several ideas floating around in my head, and we'll have to see where we go from there. But yes, I always like to talk about mixing, mastering, songwriting, working with virtual instruments. Anything you guys want to talk about, we can talk about. And harmony, chords, melody, how you work with those kind of things. We can talk about all those subject areas. That's something we can do. Johnny says, like I ever know what I'm talking about. Yeah, Johnny, you do yourself a disservice, buddy. You know more than you give yourself credit for. That is for sure, my friend. You have among the sharpest ears in the business, as far as I'm concerned. So we have 10 people here, and all the usual folks are here. Ice Mike says chords. I'm guessing you want to talk about chords. I don't have any of my keyboards switched on, so maybe that would be a good idea. Oh, you meant my like you planned something. Yeah, gotcha. Hang on. I'm gonna have to unmute my speakers. There we go. The speakers will feed back at they won't feed back into my mic, but you'll hear them maybe coming back into the mic a little bit, because I need to have it on so that I can hear what you can hear. If we're doing any chord stuff. How about using loops in songwriting? Now that is a very, very good question. It's also a massive, monumentally huge question. However, it is something I definitely advocate doing. In fact, I am working on my next EP. It's kind of been delayed. I've had to delay it by 2 or 3 months because I've had a whole bunch of other things going on that kind of took precedent. You know, client work takes precedent over my work every time, pretty much. So yeah, so I am working on a new EP, and I am actually involving loops from Looploft primarily, actually, for drums, because it's it makes sense because of budgetary constraints. Now that my band basically has gone from 12-piece to 6-piece to 3-piece, and in fact, my band officially no longer exists. It folded just a couple of months ago. So it now goes under the name of Jonny Lipsham Music. And I still have the same bass player and I still have the same drummer. They're still quite happy to work with me, but you know, when I'm making my own records, I'm having to think about what I can do more than normal, because I can't really afford to pay those guys. So, and of course, you know, I'm the kind of guy where I have to pay people if I'm going to have them on my records. I much prefer to pay them or do a deal where I trade with them, where I trade off something. So I'll maybe play on their record if they'll play on mine, that kind of stuff. Or I'll mix one of their songs if they will play on mine. So yeah, so that's kind of where things are at. Johnny says, a legend. Well, not yet, but I'm working on it. Dude, you have it, man. You have it. Totally. So working with loops is a good thing. I do believe that our good friend Johnny is working on a video series that goes into working with loops in great detail. So I'm going to leave a lot of what I say to him and his video series because I don't want to steal his thunder or tread on his shoes or any of those other amusing metaphors. I just don't want to get in the way of anything that he's doing. So what can we do with loops? Loops are fun, actually, and particularly if you have anything from Looploft, they are extremely good fun. Now, at the moment, the only ones I have are drums, but I know that they do saxophones, they do guitars, they do a whole bunch of stuff that you can get your hands on. But if you're after a good set of drum loops, I totally recommend going to Looploft and checking out the Matt Chamberlain artist package there, and the Nate Smith, I think it's Smith, loop package there, and there's Eric Harland as well. He's done a whole set, and it's essentially as good as having those guys come and play on your record. You know, Matt Chamberlain is one of the greatest session drummers around at the moment. He's fantastic. He's played from everyone from well, pretty much everyone. I don't think there's very many people he hasn't played with as a session drummer. He's fantastic. He plays on film scores quite a lot as well. So like a lot of the new, maybe the Bond movies from the last sort of 10 years or so, Matt has been the session drummer on those dates for those score sessions. So check him out. I do believe they're actually doing, Looploft are doing, I think they're doing a discount at the moment. So well worth going to check out and see if you can get one of those sets for real cheap, like less than $25. So definitely worth going and checking those out. So how do I go about using them? Well, I've used loops in a whole bunch of ways over the years. Sometimes if I'm writing a song, I'll use a drum loop to kind of, you know, in place of a metronome, because, you know, metronomes are great. Click tracks, great. I've been playing as a session drummer myself. I've been playing to click tracks for, you know, 30, 35, 36 years. But, you know, they're flipping boring. They really are. They're the worst things in the world to play with because they're you know, they're just like mechanically unforgiving. Dink, 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 dink. Do yourselves a favor. Go through a set of drum loops. There are loads in Studio One that you get for free. They're just there. Go get those. Find one that fits your style of music, and drag it in and hit the D key. And you've got something there that you can play to, that you can build your song around. And even if you end up discarding it and replacing it with a real drummer, you know, do that. Johnny says, especially for a jazz guy, click tracks are tough. Well, they are in as much as jazz has a little bit more of a kind of push-pull sense to it. You know, kind of like tempo is maybe slightly fluid, but only slightly. You know, as a jazz drummer, we don't play fast and loose with tempo. You know, tempo is actually incredibly important to jazz. You don't get a proper swing feel if the ride cymbal is not absolutely right. Ping, ting, ka-ting, ting, ka-ting, ting. You know, that quarter note is not right on where the beat is, then, you know, that swing feel will just, you'll just kill it. He says tough in that you feel restricted. You can do. Personally, I don't. Playing with a click track, playing a jazz tune. Actually, here's how I tend to relate to a click track if I'm playing to a click track. Seems kind of like it's a little aside, but it'll come back to loops in a minute. Here's how I play to a click track. I use the click track. It's kind of there, and I will actually use it to free me up, so I can play a little bit of push pull against the click track. And it always means that I always have no doubt about where the one is, where the downbeat of the first beat of the bar is. I know exactly where that is. I mean, I know that where it is anyway, but you know, the click track kind of it's always constantly reminding you where that is. So anything between that downbeat of beat one, I can do what I want with. So I can pull, I can push, I can compress, I can stretch as much as I want, you know, within reason, so long as I'm nailing that downbeat and the quarter notes are there, everything else can kind of be nice and loose. So my quarter notes on the ride cymbal will be absolutely, totally locked in with that click track, and everything else will be kind of push-pull fluid all around it. Good cowbell click track gets me revved up indeed, says Skip. Yeah, you know what? 16 hours of a cowbell click track in your earphones is the worst, and Alka-Seltzer just doesn't fix it. so that's playing with a click track. But when you're building your song, get yourself a drum loop in there, even if you never use it again, other than just to help you get your scratch tracks for your song down. You know, do that. I mean, I did that with a client maybe a couple of years ago, where we got a loop in for his song. I think I even did a video about it actually, which is it's called Don't Get Happy with the Delete Key. That's what the video is titled, so, and that's on my YouTube channel, so go check that out. And essentially what I'm talking about there is, you know, sometimes magic can happen in those early tracking moments when you're just beginning to build your song. And that's certainly what happened with this particular song. We had a drum loop, and everything was built around this drum loop, and my client's acoustic guitar playing just really fit nicely and snugly with this loop and the vocal. But essentially he didn't want this drum loop to be going throughout the whole song at all. The idea was that we were going to use it just to get his guitar playing and his vocal tight, and then we were going to discard it, and then everything else would get replaced by me. I was going to record some drums and some percussion and some fretless bass and some keyboards and things. So anyway, so he came and did the vocal and the guitar. He's the kind of guy who nails things in one take. So we got that drum loop in, we hit record, and off he went, and he did it, guitar in one take. Perfect. We did a second take just for safety, and also I thought I could maybe use it as a double. And it was just as good, so we used it as a double. It was perfect. And then he did his vocal, and he absolutely nailed the butt out of that vocal. So he went home after about 20 minutes in the studio. And then that left me to kind of like build out the rest of the song. So I'd been building out the rest of the song, putting in keyboards, putting in fretless bass, putting some guitar, playing this little guy here. This is my Ibanez AGR 70 hollow body guitar. That's a guitar I use to do additional electric guitar parts. Lovely guitar. And so I did all of that with this drum loop still going. And then when it came time to, to start mixing and everything else, that loop was still in there. And my client had said, I don't want the loop going through the song. I kind of want the verse to not have anything going on, particularly apart from maybe a little bit of keyboards and his acoustic guitar and the vocal. So I said, fine, no problem. So here's what I did, because as soon as I took the drum loop away, kind of like the sense of time just fell out of the song in that first verse. Kind of like you had the intro, which is quite full, and then a drop down first verse. Well, the song just immediately lost energy. So what I did, and it's in the video, but I can see if I can find the session and dig it out and show you what I did with the drum loop in a moment. And what I did was I basically created like a ridiculous kind of like telephone effect EQ, and then compressed the poop out of it. And I left that running, and then basically I ran it through a phaser on Ampire. I used the phaser stomp box. Excuse me. I used the phaser stomp box on Ampire for the drum loop. And then I put it through a delay set at dotted quarter notes with it ping-ponging. And it just sounded fantastic. And we kept it. So the drum loop did go through the whole song, and we just kind of faded it in and out where we wanted it. And it just sounded great. And then so we kind of added some real drums to that and some percussion and everything else. And the song just sounded really, really great. So there's really creative things that you can do with a drum loop where it doesn't have to just be, normal sounding drums. You can be really creative. You can distort the peanuts out of them if you want to. You can do lots of things. So we did have 12 people in here, and now we've only got 8. You're probably all wanting me to show you this, aren't you? So I'm going to have to try and find it. I don't know whether I can, but I will have a look, because it's a couple of years old. So, and actually it might not open in 3.5.2. We will have to see. So I'm actually opening up Studio One, and I'll share my screen once I've actually found this. I'm going to have to go back a long, long way. Where is it? Oh, no, that's not it. I thought that was it. That isn't it. Is this it here? Let's see if it opens. It's 2 years old. Let's see if this opens. Oh, hurrah. We have it. This is good. Wasn't sure whether this was going to open up. Bobby Booth says your Rode mic looks nice. Yes, it does. I like it. I hope it sounds good as well, because I'm talking to you through it just now. So hopefully it sounds good. Right. Let me see. Am I best putting my headphones on for this or not bothering? I think I might actually. Let's see if I can get them off. Here we go. So, oh, picture quality looks quite good. I'm just looking at the stream. Looks good. All right. So let me go up to here and screen share entire screen. Okay, why are you not letting me do it? Oh, hang on. Oh, I see. That would be why. Okay, you don't want to see that screen. I want to see that screen. All right, so in a second or two, you should be able to see Studio One. At least that's what I hope. Okay, I think you guys can all... Man, let me just get a drink of tea. Sorry, folks, I'm still not fully recovered. I am trying my best. Now, this was done 2 years ago, and I have since changed my mixing methodology quite a bit. So this will be interesting. Let me see. Go across all the way to here. These guys I'm going to make blue. Oh, let's start that again. Let's make all of these the same color, shall we? There we go. And these guys can be a slightly different shade. There we go. And all my buses are supposed to be red, because that's how I normally do it. Right, okay. OCD moment over. You probably want to figure out what's going on here. Okay, so here we go. Here's my drum loop on this track here. And I'm going to take everything off, including the delay. And I'm going to turn the mixer off, and I'm going to find where the drum loop comes in, which would be here. I'm going to... hang on, have I got automation mode on? There we go. I'm going to solo this guy, and I'm going to play you the loop. Except I don't think you can hear it, can you? What's going on here? Oh, if I soloed the wrong thing, that's why. So this is this drum loop. Now you're probably wondering why it sounds so disgusting, even though I've taken off all of the processing. Well, the reason why is because this drum loop was a lot faster in tempo. And so I think it was 135 or something, and I slowed it down to 75, which obviously stretches everything out ridiculously, and you end up with artifacting, which is not great. So I thought, well, we can hide all the artifacting by all of this processing. So it sounds pretty awful on its own. So let's make it more awful. So that's pretty much how it sounds, the drum loop on its own. Let's play it in context from the beginning of the whole song. Now, this is kind of a Christmassy kind of song. Just to give you a bit of context.
2,000 years gone by, still I hear that baby cry, crying for a world that's lost her way. Come down as one of us, untouched by sinfulness. He lost all his dignity. Love, here it is, born to die so we might live.
So I don't know how excuse me again, I don't know how well this is coming across on YouTube. through my crappy broadband. So I'm hoping this comes through okay. But essentially, we did a whole bunch of different things to this. As you can see, I've done a little bit of time stretching to this guitar part, because there are points where it's just a little bit out of time, only a tiny bit. But it does fill out eventually to regular full drums at this point here.
That forgives and it sets me free, so I can live all you have given, everything. Oh, may the earth see her king, all you have given, everything. Oh, may the earth.
So it's a bit more full band here, and it kind of builds up, and then it drops back down again. So that's one way in which you can creatively use a drum loop to do different things. So the drum loop here is not kind of like a feature. It's not even providing a whole lot other than a percussive effect, and that's all I wanted really from this. So let's see. Johnny says it's got a cool sound. Well, that's good to know. Thank you. John Wilkins is here, and he says good evening. Good evening to you, John. So I'm hoping that this is kind of helping you as we're talking about loops. And basically, these were loops that I found over here in this section here, and I just went and searched until I found something that fitted this song, and then I slowed it down. And then, of course, we had to time stretch it and everything, and I think we covered it up pretty well. And I think the fact that we've given it this telephone effect, and then we're compressing it pretty heavily. If we go look at the compressor settings, attack's pretty slow, release is pretty slow. So it pumps, and it's kind of deliberately meant to pump quite a bit. Even though it's only a 2-to-1 ratio, the threshold is quite sort of in the middle here. But we're getting enough gain reduction, and the attack is slow, and the release is probably too slow. But the idea of having this 120 millisecond release was that it would pump, particularly on the kick drum, because I really wanted the kick drum, albeit all the low end of the kick drum is rolled off, I still wanted it to have some impact. And I think we get that. Albeit it is essentially just a percussive effect. It doesn't really bear any relationship to drums whatsoever. But yeah, it's over here. This is where I found, and I think it might have even been in one of these pop drums sections. I think, yeah, it's over here somewhere, because there's like a whole bunch of songs with different song titles and different styles. And basically, I think I just grabbed one. I don't even remember which one it was. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know which one it was. Might have been over here. Yeah, it might have been one of these ones. I really can't remember which one it was, because there's actually quite a lot to choose from here, and then you've got some one shots of a DW kit, which is nice. I wonder if actually this is the blue colored DW kit that sits in the Persona studio. I wonder if it is. But I think I might have used one of these as, yeah, I think I might have used one of these as the loop. I just don't remember which bit, but but yeah, this is all I did with it, really. I just grabbed a loop. It was one we liked, and then we just dragged it in, and that was that, really. And this is what we came up with. And my artist, my client liked it, and so that was that, really. So I hope that was helpful. Beatrice is here. Beatrice Drewbury, welcome back. Good to see you. Sorry, it takes me a few clicks to get the regular screen back. I'm going to take these off now, unless there's something else you want me to look at. So yeah, working with loops. Loops are great. You can do it like that, the way that I've just shown you, or you can actually use a drum loop that actually forms a bit more of a feature. Again, you can look at the ones that are in the Presonus loops library there. There's absolutely hundreds. If you find one that fits your tempo, use that. If it doesn't fit your tempo, then you need to think about the artifacting. Because you will have some. If you're stretching it because it's too fast and you're stretching it to make it slower, you are going to get artifacting, and the opposite will be the case if you're having to compress it. Not in terms of audio compressing, but tempo compressing. John says, John Wilkins says, I've noticed in other people's that they'll take the worst sounding drum mic, Sure Green Bullet as an example, and compress the crap out of it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I often do something similar. When I'm miking up drums, I will have all my regular mics, and then I'll park a microphone maybe 6 to 7 feet away from the drum set, kind of pointing at the middle. Oh, it's not quite over the top. It's kind of elevated slightly above the toms and pointing towards the center of the drums. And I'll put that there, and then I will compress the living daylights out of it. I may even, run it through an an 1176 all buttons in mode, and then just slam that needle, baby. And then I will then blend it in with the overall drum sound, and you can end up with something that just adds a sense of weight or a sense of impact or a sense of roundness. It can do all sorts of things. Sometimes it can be kind of like improvisational. You put it up there, you compress it, and you see what you get. And if it works, you keep it. If it doesn't, you get rid of it, basically. So a little bit, you can be quite experimental about such things. So we still have 12 people, which is pretty good. It's a small one tonight, but it is a Sunday night, so I grant that people will be wanting to kind of spend the evening with their families before they go to work on Monday. That's all fine and good. So if there's any questions that you want to ask me on anything in particular to do with recording, mixing, mastering, songwriting, chord changes, whatever, we can do that. We can do kind of general questions now. But if you've got any specific questions to do with loops and what you think you need help with using loops in songwriting, using loops in recording, using loops throughout your production, or even mixing a drum loop, if it's a stereo drum loop, just a stereo file, I can help you with those kind of things. So get typing, because there is definitely a delay on the chat tonight. I think it might even be as much as 10 or 15 seconds. So that is what we have to deal with. So I hope you enjoyed that song anyway. That was a song called Receive Your King, and the artist's name is Bob David Bell. He's local to Edinburgh, or at least he was at the time. He was living in Edinburgh at the time. He's moved kind of east of Edinburgh since then, and I'm still in touch with him. I'm still working with him on an album of his. So we're doing much the same kind of thing. It's not Christmas orientated though, but so I'm recording his songs and helping him produce another album. So that's great. So I'm playing piano and Hammond organ on most of his songs, and fretless bass and some fretted bass, and I'm doing some drum programming as well. So it's all going pretty well. He's happy. I'm happy. And he's doing the vocals into this guy, the Rode NT1A, which is cool because we have been borrowing an NT2A. I borrowed one off a friend, but I had to give it back to him, which is why I went and bought this. As soon as I had the money to do it, I went and bought it, so I don't have to borrow microphones anymore. So there we go. Any other questions? John Wilkins, I hope I've answered your question there about you know, kind of like parking a crap mic in front of your drum set and then compress it. Jeepers. Man, I have a tickle right at the back of the throat here. So I hope that answers your question. Deirdre says, when you get a loop such as a cymbal or a one hit, do you cut all of them to fit the loop? That depends. If it's a series of one shots and I'm building a drum groove out of one shots, like a one shot on a ride cymbal, a one shot on a kick drum, a one shot on a snare drum, then I might. The problem with doing that is it will sound a little bit detached because you've literally got a sample of one guy with one stick, ting on a ride, and then he plays the kick drum once, and then he hits the snare drum once. You don't get that cohesive sound that you would get with a whole drum set. So if you're after a drum loop in a particular style or whatever, I would advise not necessarily using one shots unless you are doing replacement. If you're doing drum replacement, then one shots are the way to go. I would certainly advise that. And if it's like a loop in particular, did our stream just go down for a second there? I hope it didn't. Maybe it did, but I think we're back. Yeah, so don't use one shots unless you're sample replacing. Try and find something that's either a stereo 2-track file of a loop, or even better, if you're going to get something like the Matt Chamberlain artist pack from Looploft, you can get multi-track files. Okay, so he plays a groove in a particular style, you get the multi-tracks of that, you drag them into your session, and you mix like you would mix a regular drum set, as if you've got Matt Chamberlain on your record. What about the admin ones? I'm not sure what that is, Deirdre. Sorry. What do you mean by admin ones? Rainer says, for jazz, I often played only a snare with special sticks. I don't know the right English name. In German it's Bessen. I'm not really sure what the German translation is. You could be talking about something like hot rods, which are like a collection of cylindrical rods bound together, which you strike the drum for that. Or you could be talking about brushes. Let's see. I can show you what I have, and you can tell me if it's what you're talking about. Ah, brushes. Okay, yeah, that's cool. So I've been a Vic Firth guy. I've been a Vic Firth guy for years, for like 35 years. But these are Veta brushes. They are the only non-Vic Firth sticks I use and have ever used. And these are really, really good brushes. And these are the rods I was talking about. I have a set of these as well. They are very, very useful. What are these? These are unbranded sticks. But yeah, I otherwise use Vic Firth sticks, and have done, as I say, for over 35 years, maybe even, crikey, yeah, 35 years probably. Because my dad is a Vic Firth drumstick player. He's been playing drums for 50 years, and you know, he's used Vic Firth sticks for pretty much since Vic Firth. The Vic Firth is the or was certainly timpani player for the Boston Symphony Orchestra, I believe. And he started the drumstick company because he wanted to make timpani sticks for himself. So that's how Vic Firth Company started. And lots of great artists play Vic Firth sticks: Steve Gadd, Dave Weckl, just to name two. And I've been using them since I started playing. So that's got to be 40 years probably. So there we go. Slight digression onto sticks there. John Wilkins says testing. Testing what? Testing 1 2 testing? I don't know. I did not know of what you speak, John. MJN Studios says, I get loops and one hits from Splice. I don't really modify them too much. I usually find what I need. They have a ton of loops and samples on Splice. That's cool. John says, something I like about mixing is that you get to hear the song with the instruments turned down. It helps to remind me that not every song needs drums. Yeah. Not every song needs drums. You're quite right. And actually, that's very, very good subject for talking about music production. Is not every song needs drums. That song that I played to you just now is really a case in point. I mean, the drums really don't come in until over halfway through. And it wasn't really a song that really needed them much or featured them much. So, I mean, we're well into, let's see, nearly 2 minutes into the song before an actual drum set actually really plays. And it's only in up to the end of the bridge section, and then they're out, and then they're back in for the last verse into the outro, and they keep going through there. But the rest of the time, it's that loop, which is basically providing just a percussive effect, and that is it. And electric guitar doesn't really come in until halfway through the song either. So yeah, you don't need to have all of your instruments playing all of the time, which I think is the point that you're making there. Yes, they do, says the drummer. Yeah, well, you know, as I say, I've been playing drums pretty much my entire life, and I think probably the first and greatest lesson I ever learned was when not to play. Any other questions? We are coming up on 10 minutes to midnight. It is a Sunday night. I understand that folks are wanting to get away and be with their families, and that's cool. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. Absolutely. I do tend to do my streams for just about an hour. I don't, but you know, I can go on for a little bit longer. If you have questions, then you know we'll keep going. Deitrice says listed 01808 ABIM, for example, or EBOM. Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about, Deitrice. You're going to have to help us out there and tell me what you're talking about. Give me a little bit more details, because I'm not sure what you're talking about. I'm really sorry. MJN says 30 plus years for me on drums. Well, that's awesome, but you did say 30 plus tears. And then you've said years. I think I know what you're talking about. You mean years, but yes, years or tears. Deirdre says they are loops. Okay. That's cool. That they it sounds to me like they are 808 loops, which is cool. If you don't know what an 808 is, it's a classic drum machine from the 80s, I believe made by Roland. And as a lot of things from the 80s are, at the moment, they are back in vogue. And you can still, I mean, you can get sampler 808s now. Roland have actually made it into a plugin that you can get, which is ridiculous, but very cool. I did actually have an 808 hardware 808 unit, which no longer works. So it is in one of the drawers in that drawer unit back there. Yeah, hasn't worked for years, but it's very cool, and it was very cool at the time. So yes, 808 loops are great. Can you break it down? Can I break what down? What is it you want me to break down? We appear to be talking at cross purposes, Denise. Denise? I just called you Denise. It's Beatrice. I do apologize. We appear to be talking at cross purposes. Maybe you're talking about one-shots. I'm not really sure. Yeah, the drum loops. Yes, I totally understand, Beatrice, that they are drum loops. But I'm not quite getting what it is about them that you want me to break down. They're going to be loops of an 808 drum machine. MGN says, get it fixed. Yeah, do you know what? It won't even power up. So I think maybe and I've tried different power supplies in it. So I don't know. I think it's maybe the actual power socket on the back of it that doesn't work. And I'm not an electrician. Raina says, I have an 808 in a Korg Volca. Oh, I've heard of the Korg Volca. Yeah. Yeah, very cool. Actually, the 808 kick drum is absolutely fantastic. Recording Studio 9. I know who you are. And it's very, very good to see you from Sydney, Australia. I have watched a few of your videos, my friend, Recording Studio 9. They are very, very cool. I really, really enjoy watching your videos on your channel. So maybe you and I need to hook up offline. That would be cool. If you send me an email, I will post up my email address for you just now in the chat. Doesn't mean that everybody's going to get it, but that's okay. You guys are cool. Studios.co.uk. Ignore the red highlight bit. That's stupid. Yeah, my email address is johnny@jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk. Recording Studio 9. It would be cool if we could hook up offline and have a good chat, because I think there's stuff that you and I could discuss, you and I could get involved with. So that'd be cool. And you have watched many of mine. Well, that's great. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that. I have friends and family in Sydney, Australia, so that's excellent. There's quite a large Scottish community there, which is awesome. I wish I was going out there this winter, actually, to go and see the Ashes. That would be amazing. I've never watched an Ashes test match in Australia, so that would be awesome one day to do that. John Wilkins says, is that an Ibanez hollow body behind you? Yes, it is. Allow me to show you. Here she is. Try not to drop my mic. Yep, here she is. This is the AGR 70 hollow body guitar. And it sounds epic. It is like nearly 1 a.m. in the morning, so I'm not really going to plug this in and scream with it because it will wake my kids up, and that would be a disaster. I would also wake my wife up, and she is on call tonight. She's a community midwife. She's on call tonight. So if I wake her up, I would probably be murdered live on YouTube. Not a good idea. But rest assured, this sounds beautiful. And I've just had it overhauled. My dad is a wonderful guitar player, but he is also a pretty darn good guitar tech as well. So he's just restrung this and he's fixed the neck as well, because the neck was bowed a little bit, so we had intonation problems. Okay. Yes, it is a very cool axe. Thank you, Losler. Good to see you, by the way. Oh, shit. Well, it was a good axe. I just slammed it into my piano. And I dropped an S-bomb. Okay. John says, I think Beatrice is asking if you ever take a drum loop and divide it into separate notes. And Beatrice confirms that's what she's talking about. Fantastic. Thank you, John. Appreciate you helping out there. Generally speaking, no, I don't. And the reason being is that if you chop it all up into separate hits, if you like, from a loop, then you're going to lose that sense of cohesiveness that this was actually played by a real person, not just the drummer just sat with his mic'd up drum set and went, right, let's record the hi-hat. Chink. Okay, now let's record the kick drum. Now let's record the snare drum. And then, you know, you kind of like map that out and no, I don't tend to do that because you don't get something that sounds like a real player, in my opinion. That said, you can multi-layer samples onto something like impact. So you've got the different velocities and that kind of stuff. Now, the cool thing about some drum samplers, and there are some great ones out there, some, you know, things like Easy Drummer and Superior Drummer 3, which is just a recent release, is that you get the whole drum set mic'd up fully, but when you play the hi-hat on your F sharp key over here, you actually get some bleed into other mics, like the overheads. You get the hi-hat coming through the overheads as well as coming through the direct hi-hat mic. And also you get the hi-hat coming through the snare drum mic. That is realistic. I would do that, absolutely. But I wouldn't take a loop and then try and break it up into its constituent parts like that. Recording Studio 9 says, I have a similar Ibanez. Well, that's very cool. And he also says, I just got a software that can split all the hits from a loop into separate parts. Now, see, if you are exploding to pitches like you can do in Studio One, that's different. Because that means the whole loop continues to play seamlessly and cohesively, and you still get the individual bleed from the individual instruments of the drum set, but you've got each one of the individual parts of the drum set on different channels in Studio One. That's different. Exploding to pitches, absolutely, I would do, because then I can treat each one separately with EQ and compression and that kind of stuff. So yeah, so I hope that answers your question, Beatrice, and I do apologize for not getting at what you were getting at. I can be a little bit dense sometimes. Or as my wife would say, you are dense all the time and occasionally you have moments of clarity. So there we go. So I hope we got that answered for you. We still have 12 people in the room, so we've averaged somewhere between 12 and 13, 14 people, which is great. And we've got some new faces in the room as well, which is great as well. So I'm really glad to have some new people in the stream, and I hope you guys will come back on the next one, which will be probably next weekend. It may even be this time again on a Sunday night. If you guys are up for it, next Sunday night we can do another stream. And actually, I know I called this I know I called this stream the Monster Edition. I guess I called it the Monster Edition because I was thinking, you know what, we're getting a little bit close to Halloween, and I thought that we could do some fun stuff with Halloween. But if I'm doing it, whoopsie, if we're doing a stream next Sunday, it's going to be even closer to Halloween, so then we can do some more fun Halloween-y scary stuff. That would be good. So I will change the title when I've finished this stream, And next week's one will be the Monster Edition, the Halloween Crazy Stupidity. And we can just totally go to town on making some scary effects and that kind of stuff for Halloween. And then maybe I will make what we do available for you guys so you can download and incorporate into your mixes to scare the living daylights out of your friends and your colleagues. Skip says dress up the gerbil. Now that's a great idea. Yes, Kevin should definitely get a scary suit. I'll get my son to do something. He's very cool at that kind of stuff. Next time, DI your guitar so we can hear it. I would if I had a DI, which I don't. My DIs are at church at the moment. Because they had to be borrowed from me. So yes. I'm afraid I don't have any DIs. But yes, I will do a video that features this guy. Now, I will warn you, I'm not really that good at guitarist. I don't really know how to play regular straight chords. Oh, maybe I know how to play one. I'll show you. Now, I don't know how well you're going to be able to hear this, but I can play this chord, and I can play this one. And in terms of regular chords, that's probably about my limit. I much prefer chords like this, and maybe even a little bit of, or even, if I can remember how to play this particular one. I like these kind of chords. Those are my kinds of chords. Coding Studio 9 says, you can't be the worst guitar player than me. Oh, I can. I absolutely can. I'll tell you why. Me strumming, I strum and it rains plectrums. I did have a bag with about 100 plectrums in it, so that I could record some guitar. By the end of the 2-hour session of recording guitars, I had 45 left. They are scattered all over the room somewhere. I haven't found half of them yet. So there you go. That's what happens. I strum and the plectrum just goes pew, 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 just comes flying out of my hand every time. So yes, I'm a rubbish guitar player. So there you go, folks. It is 5 minutes past 1 in the morning in sunny Edinburgh, Scotland, capital of the entire world. So if anybody of you has any last questions, if you don't, then we will wrap this up. But yeah, I will take another couple of questions and then we'll wrap it up. She means separate the drum kit. Yes. Yep, I understood that. Separating out the constituent parts of a drum set so that you can treat them individually, I would definitely do. Yep. You just have to be careful if you're taking a, kind of like if you're trying to isolate from a stereo 2-track loop, trying to isolate the different parts and do it that way, then I wouldn't advocate that. But yeah, if you're exploding to pitches so that you've got, so you've essentially got multi-track files so that you can treat the hi-hat and the snare drum and the kick drum and all of that separately, then yes, absolutely go do it. I would definitely encourage that. Recording Studio 9 says it's called Regroover from Acusonus. Yes, I've heard of that actually. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, I have heard of that. And he says it works really well if you're stuck. Awesome. John Wilkins says, did you say you are using a new Rode mic? Yes, this is new to me. It's not new as in the Rode NT1A is new, but it's certainly new to me. Deirdre says, would you stack chorus, verse, intro on the same track? If you're still talking about drum loops, I'm not really sure what you mean. Would you stack chorus, verse, intro on the same track? As in have them all playing together, one on top of the other? Probably not. I'm trying to figure out what you mean. Tell you what, Beatrice, here's an idea. Drop me an email with maybe a bit more of an expanded version of the question. I do understand that when you're in the chat, you're just wanting to get kind of like the edited highlights of the question so that it gets into the chat quickly. But if you drop me an email, then, you know, we can email back and forth, if you like, over those questions. Where you stack chorus, verse, intro on the same track, and then you say 1, 2, 3, which again still doesn't make any sense to me. Skip says, keep an eye on the weather the next few days. Yes, I am doing. I have a live weather tracker on my desktop, and it is tracking the storm, the hurricane rather, as it comes. It's been, I think yesterday it was categorized as a category 2 storm with outbound winds, I think, are 80 miles an hour and gusting up to 130 miles an hour. Now, the folks in Ireland are getting the brunt of it. And then the west coast of Scotland are probably going to get it as well. But us on the east coast, we're probably not going to get very much other than a strong breeze. Probably, you know, 40, 50 miles an hour here. And some rain is what we might get. So nothing particularly damaging. But the guys on the west coast, that would be places like Glasgow and all of that, they are going to get it right in the face. So, and I have family in Glasgow, so I'm going to be looking out for them. But yeah, here we should be absolutely fine. I know atmospherics can affect my broadband a wee bit, so streaming next week may or may not be quite so good, but we will watch and we'll keep an eye on that. Recording Stu 9 says, I think some people record all parts of intro verse of a song into separate tracks. Oh right, okay. I think I understand what you mean. No, I don't do that. And that's where the arranger track in Studio One is just fantastic. It means you don't really need to do that. You don't really, maybe in the old days, I would do an intro keyboard part, and then I would stop and I would do the verse on a new track so that you kind of, you get a nice, neat start and end between the intro part and the verse part, particularly if you're using a sustain pedal. And then I'd do the chorus on another track. If that's what you mean by stacking, then yes, in the old days I did used to do that. Like way back in early Cubase VST days. We're talking, you know, kind of like the late 80s, early 90s. I would have done that because you otherwise would have got, you know, some popping and clicking because you couldn't really do accurate crossfading. So, but now I wouldn't do that because you can crossfade dead easy in Studio One. It's a doddle. John Wilkinson's. I keep calling him John Wilkinson's. What I'm trying to say is John Wilkins says, and it's not coming out right. Sorry. Putting them end to end on the same track as opposed to having them on separate tracks. Yeah, I would put them end to end and crossfade. Is what I do. I'll show you if I go back to my screen sharing. Share entire screen, share. And then we go to here. You should now be able to see Studio One. You should be able to see that I've got, I mean, this was actually done in the days before the arranger, before I really started using the arranger track, because as you can see, there is no arranger track open. But yeah, the arranger track makes it easy, so you don't have to do those kind of things here. But I mean, you can see here, if I just go to this pad track here and zoom in a bit, you know, these first 8 bars, 7 bars, this is just like an intro figure that fades in. Oh, go back to beginning. This is where the guitar comes in for the intro, and that's where the verse starts. But you can hear that the join between this intro and then the verse, even though they're separate takes, they're actually pretty seamless. And you know, that's the beauty of Studio One, is that you can crossfade between there. Can you see that there's a little square box there? That indicates that we've got a crossfade between the 2 tracks. So you know, there's no join, there's no like popping join. Even though we're kind of hedge hopping a little bit in terms of the voicing, we're going from quite high to low all of a sudden, which I wouldn't recommend, but it actually worked out in that particular case. So is that what you mean, Beatrice? I hope that helps explaining that. Greg Lewis, good to see you, Greg. You are here, and that's fantastic. And we're kind of beginning to get to the business end of this stream now, but I'm glad you're here. And you asked, what are you using to process your microphone? I will tell you, absolutely nothing. I'm using absolutely nothing to process this microphone. This is going straight into my AudioBox USB. The AudioBox USB outputs are going into my monitor station. The Q out on the back of the monitor station is going into my second interface, a brand name I shall not mention. And Google Hangouts is capturing the audio from that second interface. So there's no actual processing going on, really. There's no EQ, there's no compressor, there's no gate, there's no noise reduction, there's no nothing. So if it sounds good to your ears, then that's fantastic. Oi! What the heck happened there? That surely was not supposed to happen. But it's a good thing that I was sat right in front of it. My goodness. That was well caught by me. That bit hadn't happened again. In fact, that did happen the other day, and my fader port caught it. And it slammed into the play button of the fader port, but fortunately, it's just bent it. It's not stopped it from working. So that's something I'm not particularly impressed with, but I think that's more to do with maybe the quality of this microphone stand than it is to do with the Rode NT1A. I think maybe this mic stand is not maybe the most robust in the world. And I think maybe that's what happened there. Whew. Well caught by me. Superior Drummer 3 is great, says Woodbeast. Yes, it is. Recording Studio 9 says true, same her, but no longer need to. Not sure what that's all about. Maybe that's discussion going on. And you guys are talking about Superior Drummer 3. Recording Studio 9 says, I've just done a demo for the arranger in Studio One Prime, and the results are as perfect when copying and moving parts. Yes, I saw that. I saw that video. It's really good. It's a really good demo of the arranger track in Prime. So well done for doing that. I think it's excellent. And he says, good night, and I'll be in touch soon. Excellent. Well, a very good night to you too, albeit it's going to be, what, lunchtime at your end in Sydney? I'm not sure. Breakfast? I don't know. I think you're 10 hours different to me. And I'm trying to think which way that would be. You're 10 hours ahead of me, I think. Whitby says, great show. Deirdre says, thank you. Greg says, thanks. Awesome. Okay, well, we are at 1:20 in the morning, nearly. And I think we are pretty much at the point of wrapping this up now. 11:20 a.m. on Monday morning. Fantastic. So you'll be having your coffee then. Enjoy your coffee break. Drop me that email and I will speak to you soon. John Wilkins says, Deirdre, some parts of Scotland have just started learning English. Yeah, thanks a lot, John. You guys are hilarious. Whoopi says, how hard is it to click on the play button? It still works. It's fine. It still works just the same, actually. It's just a little bit lopsided, that's all. One side of it is mashed in a little bit. But it works. It's fine. I'm not complaining. Greg says he's in NC. That would be North Carolina. Okay, cool. All right, folks. Yes, I do speak English pretty well for a Scot. Mostly because I spent a lot of my life in England. So I know England very, very well. But yeah, I really do apologize, Deirdre. I could not make head or tail of your posts, I'm afraid. But we got there in the end, which is cool. So feel free, Deirdre, to email me anytime with any other questions and we can talk through them. That'd be cool. All right, folks, I'm going to bid you all a very good night at exactly 1:20 in the morning. And I will see you all. Greg, he says, I don't speak English, I speak American. Yeah, that's right. You guys speak English as it was 200 years ago, to be lexicographically accurate. Yeah, we kind of moved on with how we speak English. And we spell things less logically than you guys do. Anyways, folks, thanks for coming, and I will see you guys all around on YouTube. The next installment of the Personas Symphonic Orchestra series, episode number 7, is going to be shot this week. It'll be out in the middle of this week, some point coming. And we're going to be looking at the choir. So it'll be all oohs and ahs and everything else. It'll be really cool. Looking forward to that because the choir sounds are epic. Trust me. And there's going to be some other mixing tips videos coming out as well, which I'm working on. And I will otherwise see you all around. Take care. Bye for now.